Ever wonder what happens when brilliant minds collide with Hollywood magic? From popcorn treated with fire retardant to the world's first online press conference held over CompuServe, the 1985 cult classic Real Genius is packed with bizarre behind-the-scenes secrets that are almost as wild as the movie itself. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about Real Genius. Fact 1. Kilmer's audition was hilariously rude. Val Kilmer's audition for Real Genius was unlike anything producer Brian Grazer had ever experienced, and it set the tone for one of Hollywood's most memorable casting stories. When the young actor walked into the room to read for the role of Chris Knight, he immediately looked at Grazer and delivered a line that would have ended most auditions on the spot. He told the producer, "You look like you're 12 years old. I like to work with men." Instead of being offended or showing Kilmer the door, Grazer was actually impressed by the actor's bold approach and commitment to the character's irreverent personality. Years later, Grazer recalled the audition with a mix of amusement and admiration, remembering that Kilmer had brought candy bars and performed magic tricks during the meeting, all while maintaining the cocky, genius persona of Chris Knight. The actor never broke character throughout the entire audition, treating the whole experience as if he were already the brilliant but immature physics prodigy from the script. This unconventional approach convinced the producers that Kilmer was perfect for the role, as he embodied the exact mixture of genius intellect and juvenile behavior that defined Chris Knight. The audition became legendary in Hollywood circles as an example of how staying true to a character, even at the risk of insulting powerful producers, can sometimes be the smartest career move an actor can make. Kilmer's willingness to fully commit to the part from the very first moment demonstrated the same fearless creativity that would make his performance in Real Genius so memorable and help establish him as one of the most talented actors of his generation. Fact 2. 3 months of non-stop popcorn production. The iconic finale of Real Genius, where Professor Hathaway's house explodes with millions of popped kernels, required one of the most unusual and time-consuming preparation processes in film history. To create enough popcorn to fill an entire house from floor to ceiling, the production team began running industrial popcorn machines around the clock 3 full months before filming the climactic scene. This wasn't a matter of just popping a few batches the night before. The sheer volume needed meant that popcorn production became a constant day and night operation that continued for 12 straight weeks. Once the mountains of popcorn were produced, the crew faced another unexpected challenge that required an unusual solution, because the scene involved a powerful laser and various lighting equipment that generated significant heat. There was a genuine risk that the massive pile of popcorn could catch fire during filming. To prevent this potentially disastrous outcome, every single piece of popcorn had to be treated with fire-retardant chemicals, adding yet another layer of complexity to the production process. But the problems didn't end there. Once the treated popcorn was ready and staged on location, the crew discovered that birds were attracted to the enormous pile of food and would swoop down to feast on it. Since the popcorn had been treated with fire-retardant chemicals that could poison and kill the birds, the production team had to cover the entire setup with protective tarps and netting between takes to prevent any wildlife from accessing it. This combination of months-long preparation, chemical treatment, and wildlife protection made the popcorn finale one of the most logistically complicated single scenes in 1980s comedy filmmaking. Fact 3. Michelle Mayrink abandoned Hollywood for Zen Buddhism. Michelle Mayrink, who played the hyperactive and endearing Jordan in Real Genius, made a decision that shocked Hollywood when she walked away from acting at the height of her career. After appearing in her final film role in 1988 at just 27 years old, Mayrink announced she was leaving the entertainment industry permanently, telling friends and colleagues that she wanted more out of life than what Hollywood could offer. Her departure wasn't a temporary break or a career shift to behind-the-scenes work. It was a complete rejection of the lifestyle and values she had experienced in the film industry. Mayrink converted to Zen Buddhism and began a spiritual journey that took her far from the movie studios of Los Angeles. She relocated to the Dominican Republic, where she spent several years studying Buddhist philosophy and meditation practices, completely disconnecting from her former life as a recognizable actress. Eventually, she returned to North America and settled in Vancouver, Canada, where she channeled her experience in the entertainment world into a new purpose. She founded the Actorium, an acting school where she teaches aspiring performers the craft she once practiced herself, but with an emphasis on mindfulness, authenticity, and finding deeper meaning in creative work. Her teaching philosophy combines traditional acting techniques with Buddhist principles of presence and awareness, offering students a dramatically different approach than the competitive, ego-driven methods common in Hollywood. Former colleagues from Real Genius have expressed respect for her choice, noting that Jordan's manic energy in the film was actually quite different from Mayrink's real personality, which was more thoughtful and introspective. Her complete transformation from Hollywood actress to Zen Buddhist acting teacher remains one of the most unusual career paths of anyone associated with the film. Fact 4. The sweepstakes scam was based on real Caltech students. The scene where Laszlo Holyfeld explains his elaborate scheme to win a Frito-Lay sweepstakes wasn't just clever screenwriting, it was based on an actual stunt pulled off by Caltech students in 1974. In the film, Laszlo has figured out the mathematical odds of winning a major contest and plans to flood the system with entries to guarantee himself multiple prizes. This mirrors what really happened when a group of enterprising Caltech students decided to game a McDonald's sweepstakes promotion that was running nationwide. The students analyzed the contest rules, calculated the probability of winning, and determined that if they submitted a massive number of entries, they could mathematically guarantee themselves a significant portion of the available prizes. They organized a campus-wide effort and managed to submit 1.2 million entries to the McDonald's contest, which was an absolutely staggering number for the time period. Based on their calculations, they anticipated winning approximately 35% of all prizes that McDonald's was giving away. However, their plan didn't work quite as perfectly as expected. When the winners were announced, the Caltech students only received about 20% of the prizes, still a substantial haul, but less than their mathematical models had predicted. The filmmakers were so delighted by this real-life example of genius-level students using their intelligence for mischievous purposes that they incorporated it directly into the script. As a subtle nod to the original McDonald's sweepstakes scheme, the production designers made sure that Laszlo's dorm room was filled with McDonald's bags and containers during certain scenes, a visual reference that most audiences would miss, but that Caltech alumni would immediately recognize and appreciate. Fact 5. The world's first online press conference. In an era when the internet was still in its infancy and most people had never even heard of email, the marketing team for Real Genius attempted something that had never been done before in film promotion. To generate buzz for the movie's release in 1985, the studio organized what they boldly advertised as the world's first computer press conference, using the CompuServe network to connect director Martha Coolidge and producer Brian Grazer with journalists from around the country. CompuServe was one of the earliest online services, and most people accessed it through painfully slow dial-up modems that transmitted data at speeds that would be considered unusable by today's standards. The concept was revolutionary for its time. Instead of gathering everyone in a physical room or conducting individual phone interviews, reporters would type questions on their computer terminals and receive typed responses from the filmmakers in something resembling real-time communication. However, the ambitious event ran into exactly the kind of technical problems that would plague early internet ventures for years to come. The connections were unstable, with users frequently getting disconnected and having to dial back in. The text transmission was slow and unreliable, creating awkward delays between questions and answers. Some journalists struggled with the unfamiliar technology and couldn't figure out how to participate properly. Despite these considerable challenges, the press conference managed to limp through to completion and achieved its goal of generating media coverage. though many articles focused more on the novelty and difficulties of the technology than on the film itself. While the execution was far from smooth, the event genuinely pioneered the concept of online film marketing and demonstrated possibilities that wouldn't become commonplace until the widespread adoption of the internet more than a decade later. Fact 6. The tape recorder lecture gag was real. One of the most memorable running gags in Real Genius shows students gradually replacing themselves with tape recorders in a lecture hall until eventually even the professor is just a recording, lecturing to a room full of tape recorders. And it wasn't entirely invented by the screenwriters. This absurdist joke was actually based on a legendary urban legend that circulated through the most prestigious technical universities in America during the 1970s and early 1980s. The story was told at MIT, Cambridge University, and Caltech, with each institution claiming it had happened on their own campus. According to the legend, students who were frustrated with impersonal teaching methods and professors who simply read from the same notes year after year decided to stage an elaborate protest. The tale goes that one student started by placing a tape recorder on their desk to record a lecture they couldn't attend, but then someone got the clever idea to leave just the tape recorder running while they skipped class entirely. Other students supposedly caught on to the concept and began doing the same thing, gradually replacing more and more actual students with recording devices. The story reaches its perfect punchline when, in the final iteration, a professor walks into a lecture hall filled only with tape recorders, realizes the absurdity of the situation, and responds by simply placing their own tape recorder at the podium and leaving, creating a room where recordings lecture to recordings with no human beings present at all. While there's debate about whether this actually happened at any university or was just a shared academic fantasy, the legend was widespread enough and well-known enough among technical students that the Real Genius screenwriters felt confident including it in the film, knowing their target audience would immediately recognize and appreciate the reference to university culture and student rebellion against impersonal education. Fact 7. Future Independence Day. Producer started here. Dean Devlin's appearance in Real Genius was small, uncredited, and easily missed, but it marked the beginning of a career that would eventually reshape Hollywood blockbuster filmmaking. Devlin played Milton, one of the students in the background of various campus scenes, with minimal dialogue and no significant plot involvement. At the time, it seemed like just another minor role for a struggling young actor trying to build up his resume with whatever work he could find. However, Devlin's experience working on Real Genius, surrounded by smart dialogue and clever humor in a film that celebrated intelligence and creativity, apparently made a lasting impression on him. After years of working primarily as an actor with limited success, Devlin made the crucial decision to shift his focus to writing and producing, where his real talents would eventually emerge. He formed a creative partnership with director Roland Emmerich that would produce some of the biggest science fiction and disaster films of the 1990s and 2000s. Together, they created Stargate in 1994, which became a surprise hit and launched an entire franchise of television series. Their next collaboration, Independence Day in 1996, became one of the highest-grossing films of all time and established them as masters of large-scale spectacle entertainment. Devlin went on to co-write and produce the 1998 American remake of Godzilla and continued working on major projects throughout his career. The irony is that while Devlin's small role in Real Genius is barely noticeable to most viewers, his later work as a producer generated billions of dollars in box office revenue and influenced an entire generation of big-budget science fiction filmmaking, proving that sometimes the smallest roles in cult comedies can lead to the biggest careers in Hollywood. Fact 8. The car prank really happened at Caltech. The scene where Chris Knight and Mitch Taylor completely disassemble Kent's car and perfectly reassemble it inside his dorm room is one of the most memorable pranks in the entire film. And it wasn't invented by the screenwriters. It was based on an actual legendary prank that really happened at Caltech. The real-life version of this elaborate joke took place at Ricketts House, one of Caltech's undergraduate residences, where students with too much intelligence and too much free time decided to pull off what might be the most technically impressive practical joke in university history. The students carefully took apart a fellow student's car piece by piece, carried all the components up the stairs and through the hallways, and then meticulously reassembled the entire vehicle inside the victim's dorm room, making sure every part was in its proper place and the car was fully functional. The filmmakers chose a 1972 Citroën DS for the movie version of this prank, which was actually a brilliant choice beyond just visual appeal. The Citroën DS is famous for its revolutionary hydrop pneumatic suspension system, which uses pressurized hydraulic fluid instead of traditional springs and allows the car to raise and lower itself. This unique suspension system explains the memorable moment in the film where the car bounces and moves inside the dorm room. It's not just a movie effect, but an actual feature of how the Citroën DS operates. The real Caltech students who originally pulled this prank became legends on campus, and the story was passed down through generations of students who admired both the technical skill required to disassemble and reassemble a complex machine and the sheer audacity of doing it as a practical joke. Fact 9. DEI. Easter eggs are hidden everywhere. Throughout Real Genius, careful viewers can spot the initials DEI appearing repeatedly in company names, signs, and background details, and these aren't random letters. They're part of an inside joke that connects directly to Caltech culture. The initials stand for Dabney Eats It, a phrase associated with Dabney House, one of the undergraduate residences at Caltech that served as the direct inspiration for the fictional Pacific Tech dorms depicted in the film. In the movie, these three letters show up in business names like Darlington Electronic Instruments and Drain Experts Incorporated, hidden in plain sight for anyone who knows what to look for. The phrase Dabney Eats It and its initials became a kind of calling card for Caltech alumni who have carried this inside joke far beyond the campus boundaries. According to reports from former students and documented accounts, ambitious Caltech graduates have managed to place DEI references in some of the most remote and prestigious locations on Earth and beyond. The initials have allegedly been left on Mount Everest by climbing alumni, placed on equipment sent to the moon during various space missions, and incorporated into JPL space probes that have traveled to the outer reaches of the solar system. Whether all of these claims are documented fact or have become embellished over the years through repeated telling, the tradition demonstrates the strong sense of community and mischievous spirit that Caltech students maintain long after graduation. The filmmakers' decision to hide DEI throughout Real Genius was a tribute to this culture of insider jokes and the pride that Caltech students take in their unconventional traditions. For most viewers, these references pass by completely unnoticed, but for Caltech alumni watching the film, spotting each DEI Easter egg becomes a game and a reminder of their own experiences in the competitive and creative environment that the movie portrays. Fact 10. A true genius auditioned for Mitch. The casting process for the role of Mitch Taylor, the 15-year-old physics prodigy who serves as the audience's entry point into the world of Real Genius, attracted some genuinely extraordinary candidates. Among the young actors who auditioned for the part was someone who wasn't just playing a genius, he actually was one. This particular candidate had graduated from college at the remarkably young age of 14 and was already enrolled in law school when he read for the role. While most child actors auditioning for the part could only pretend to understand advanced physics and mathematics, this young man could have actually solved the equations and understood the scientific concepts that Mitch discusses in the film. Despite this impressive real-world achievement, the role ultimately went to Gabriel Jarrett, who brought his own unique qualifications to the part. Jarrett was himself only 15 years old during the filming of Real Genius, making him genuinely age-appropriate for the character rather than an older actor playing younger. While he hadn't graduated from college at 14, like his competition, Jarrett's actual teenage perspective and authentic youthful energy made him perfect for portraying the innocent and overwhelmed Mitch Taylor. The fact that an actual teenage genius was in the running for the role demonstrates how seriously the filmmakers took the authenticity of their portrayal of gifted young people. They weren't just looking for someone who could memorize scientific-sounding dialogue. They wanted someone who could genuinely convey the experience of being intellectually advanced, but emotionally still a kid. Jarrett's performance struck exactly the right balance, creating a character who is undeniably brilliant, but also vulnerable, excited, and occasionally terrified by the adult world he's been thrust into. The decision to cast an actual 15-year-old rather than the 14-year-old college graduate proved to be the right choice for the film's emotional core. Fact 11. Val Kilmer's brother's art decorated the dorm. A deeply personal element was hidden in plain sight throughout Real Genius, though it wasn't revealed to the public until decades after the film's release. In the 2021 documentary simply titled Val, which explored Val Kilmer's life and career through his own archival footage and narration, a touching detail about the Real Genius set design came to light. Some of the artwork and drawings visible on the walls of the dorm room, shared by Mitch and Chris, weren't created by the production's art department. They were actually made by Wesley Kilmer, Val's younger brother. Wesley had been an artist and creative spirit who was extremely close to Val, and his death at a young age had a profound impact on the actor. By including Wesley's artwork in the film, Val found a way to keep his brother's presence with him during the production and to share Wesley's creativity with audiences, even if they didn't know the personal significance of what they were seeing on screen. This detail adds an unexpected layer of meaning to scenes that viewers have watched countless times without realizing they were looking at something so personally meaningful to one of the film's stars. The dorm room in Real Genius is supposed to represent a space where brilliant young minds live and create, decorated with evidence of their intelligence and creativity. Knowing that some of that decoration came from Val Kilmer's actual brother transforms those background details from simple set dressing into something more poignant, a memorial and a tribute that has been preserved on film. The revelation in the documentary gave longtime fans of Real Genius a new appreciation for scenes they thought they knew completely, adding depth to a comedy that was already beloved for its intelligence and heart. Fact 12. The filming location used 190,000 pounds of popcorn. The explosive finale of Real Genius required filmmakers to construct an actual house specifically for the purpose of destroying it with an absurd amount of popcorn, and the scale of the operation was far larger than most viewers realize. The production team built the house in Canyon Country, California, selecting the location for its remote setting and minimal risk to surrounding properties. The structure wasn't just a facade or a partial set. It was a complete, functional house that would be filled from foundation to roof with popped kernels. To achieve the effect of popcorn bursting through every window and door and eventually blowing the roof completely off the building, the crew used 190,000 pounds of popcorn kernels. That's 95 tons of corn, an amount so massive it's difficult to visualize. If you tried to pop that much popcorn in a typical home microwave, assuming you could somehow do it continuously without breaks, it would take you several years to complete. The production team used industrial-scale equipment, including oversized hot air pumps that were powerful enough to literally lift the roof structure off the house when the popcorn reached sufficient volume. The scene required precise timing and coordination because once the popcorn started expanding and the pumps began forcing air into the structure, there was no stopping the process. The house was going to explode with popcorn regardless of whether the cameras were rolling properly. The crew had exactly one chance to capture the full sequence correctly, as rebuilding the house and gathering another 95 tons of popcorn would have been prohibitively expensive and time-consuming. Fortunately, the carefully planned destruction went off successfully, creating one of the most visually memorable and absurdly satisfying endings in comedy film history. Fact 13. Mythbusters proved it couldn't work. More than 2 decades after Real Genius first appeared in theaters, the popular science television show Mythbusters decided to investigate whether the film's famous popcorn finale could actually work according to the laws of physics. In a 2009 episode dedicated to testing Hollywood science, hosts Adam Savage and Jamie Hyneman built their own laser system and filled a space with popcorn to see if the movie's climactic scene was scientifically plausible. The Mythbusters team approached the challenge systematically, first confirming that a laser could indeed pop individual popcorn kernels by heating them sufficiently, which was the fundamental premise underlying the entire sequence. However, as they scaled up their experiment to match the movie's scenario, they discovered significant problems with the concept. The primary issue was that popcorn, even when rapidly expanding in a confined space, simply doesn't generate the kind of explosive force that would be necessary to shatter windows or move a house. When kernels pop, they do expand dramatically in volume, but the actual physical pressure created by this expansion is relatively minimal. The Mythbusters found that instead of building up enough force to burst through doors and blow the roof off a building, like in the movie, the popcorn would simply compress itself into a dense mass. Even worse, before the laser could pop enough kernels to fill a house-sized space, most of the popcorn would begin to char and burn rather than pop properly, creating smoke and burnt kernels instead of the fluffy white avalanche shown in the film. After conducting multiple tests with different configurations and scales, Adam and Jamie ultimately declared the myth busted, concluding that while it makes for an entertaining movie ending, the physics simply don't support the scenario. The episode didn't diminish fans' love for real genius, but it did provide a fascinating, real-world perspective on just how impossible the popcorn explosion really was. Fact 14. The mysterious woman connects three characters. One of the most subtle running jokes in Real Genius involves a character that many viewers don't even realize appears multiple times throughout the film. Sherry Neugill, played by actress Patty D'Arbanville, shows up in three distinct scenes that initially seem unconnected, but actually tell a complete story about her unusual personal mission. Her first appearance comes at the beginning of the film, when she interviews Chris Knight about what it's like to be a genius, asking questions that seem like standard journalism or research on the surface. Later in the movie, she appears in Mitch's dorm room, attempting to seduce the young prodigy, making her intentions much more clear and creating an uncomfortable situation that Mitch nervously navigates. Her final appearance comes near the end of the film when she arrives at a party with Laszlo Holyfeld, the reclusive genius who has been living in the steam tunnels beneath the campus. What ties these three scenes together is Sherry's explicitly stated goal. She is actively seeking out and pursuing romantic encounters with what she describes as the top 10 minds in the country. This means she's literally working her way through a list of the most intelligent people she can identify, attempting to seduce each one. When she arrives with Laszlo at the end, she introduces him as number one, meaning she considers him the most brilliant person in the country and the ultimate achievement in her strange quest. Most viewers miss this connection entirely or don't realize she's the same character in all three scenes. But once you recognize the pattern, it adds a bizarre and slightly disturbing layer to the film's world, suggesting that genius attracts some very unusual attention from unexpected sources. Fact 15. Caltech students were everywhere. The authenticity that makes Real Genius feel so genuine and true to actual university life wasn't achieved through research alone. It came from directly involving the real students whose experiences inspired the entire film. The production design team specifically modeled the fictional Pacific Tech dormitory on Dabney House at Caltech, capturing not just the physical layout, but the atmosphere and culture of one of America's most demanding technical universities. Director Martha Coolidge took the research process extremely seriously, spending months visiting Caltech before filming even began. She personally interviewed dozens of Caltech students, attending their classes, visiting their dorm rooms, and learning about both their academic work and their elaborate pranks and social traditions. This immersive research paid off in countless small details throughout the film that ring true to anyone who has attended a technical university. But the Caltech connection went beyond just research. Actual Caltech students were hired to serve as technical consultants throughout the production, reviewing the script for scientific accuracy and making sure the laser equipment and physics discussions were portrayed correctly. The filmmakers wanted to avoid the common Hollywood mistake of having characters spout nonsense that sounds scientific but would make actual scientists laugh. Additionally, Caltech students were recruited to appear as background extras in numerous campus scenes, meaning that real geniuses were playing fictional geniuses in a movie about genius life. This created an unusual situation where some of the extras probably understood the physics being discussed better than the main actors delivering the lines. The combination of authentic locations, careful research, expert consultation, and actual student involvement resulted in a film that technical university students and alumni consistently praise as one of the most accurate portrayals of their world ever put on screen.